Welcome to another episode of PCDC. This system here is fairly dirty. There's a lot of dust in places I did not expect dust to accumulate. Nonetheless, we're gonna tear this thing all the way down to bare board, bare cooler. We're gonna deep clean each of these components with the exception again of the PSU for reasons we've stated in a previous video. And then we're gonna reassemble all of it and maybe upgrade something. Stay with me. By this point, you've probably seen our original ad for Thermal Grizzly's Carbonite pads. They're clean, peace of mind replacements for traditional thermal paste, and best of all, you'll never have to replace them. But did you also know that you can buy Carbonite pads in different sizes for various processors? They even make a giant 51x68mm pad for Threadripper. I highly recommend Carbonite pads, and you can learn more by clicking the link below. Now, the owner of this system is Alec, and many of you asked if I talked to these owners and asked them about potential upgrades before I take their systems home. And the answer to that is largely yes. Now, I don't reveal exactly what I upgrade. Like I told a few people, yeah, I might upgrade your graphics card or your cooler. Are you okay with that? But that's important. I want to ask these folks if they're okay with upgrades, because some people are very particular about what they have in their systems. And Alec was very adamant. He's like, I like my system the way it is. I don't want you to change anything because it works for me already. I totally respect that, Alec. I'm not going to upgrade any of your vital components, but I did run by him a possible RAM upgrade, and it's not really going to be an upgrade as much as it is an aesthetic upgrade. So there won't be a performance difference per se, but we're going to swap his kind of mismatched RAM kits here with a nice set of white modules from Corsair. They actually weren't sent for this particular project, but I used them in a previous build, and they've just been kind of sitting in the box since then. They look really, really good. Corsair Dominator Platinums in white, and I think that it's going to look nice in this system as well. But first, we need to clean it. What do I use to clean with? Isopropyl alcohol, 99.9%. This is medical grade stuff here. Pretty hardcore. Q-tips, precision Q-tips, precision Q-tips. Very fine points, although they do get frayed pretty quickly. These will help me clean those small nooks and crannies. We have latex gloves. I'm already wearing a pair, but I don't want to be touching any gross things. I have a knockoff iFixit toolkit. It's pretty hardcore. Things are falling out of it. Almost. But yeah, all this stuff can be found in the video description if you want to clean the way that I do. I also have an electric duster, which is sitting for some reason on top of my personal rig. I need to get that and get to it. We need to take everything out of the system first. So that's what I like to do. My first step, take everything out. And then once everything is out, then we begin tearing individual components down to, again, bare board, bare cooler, bare fan. That's when all these tools come in handy. Are you ready? Here we go. it is day 2. We have allowed the case to dry fully overnight. If there were any remaining small little water droplets, those would have evaporated by now. There are a few things I still want to touch up, but I'm not going to bother showing those on camera. Just small details that'll really help this case kind of pop and look almost brand new for Alec when he receives his system, probably tomorrow. So we've got the dust filters we've cleaned up. We got to reassemble those or reinstall those. We've got the hard drive cage, the cable channels, SSD tray. We've got the front mount here for the 2 fans up front. Actually, what he had in there were 2 Noctua fans mounted up front. Those were intakes, and then he used the 2 stock fans, one at the rear, one at the top, both of those exhausting. And then we also took out the cable management bar here. So we cleaned that up a bit. There was quite a bit of dust, especially on the top and bottom. And then we also removed, so that we could wash the case, the front I/O assembly. For those who did not see episode 4, washing your case with water, as long as it's not made of something that I've never heard of before, this is usually just thin steel. It's okay. Steel, not stainless steel, but regular steel will rust if it's exposed to water for a long amount of time, but we're only temporarily splashing it with water. Of course, that higher pressure blasting is gonna get all that dust out, especially the small crevices and stuff in the case, but we're drying it off shortly thereafter. A lot of this case is painted anyway, and that's gonna act as an additional barrier to prevent rust. But I've been doing that for years. I've been washing my own cases when I need to do deep cleanings for years without any issue, no signs of rust whatsoever. So, don't let the forums scare you. It is okay to do as long as you clean it quickly thereafter. So let's get the case reassembled first. We'll reassemble all the components after that, all the internal components, and then we'll boot the system up and cross our fingers. Well, at this point, everything is looking nice and clean again, kind of the point, but I haven't installed RAM. I'm sure it's freaking you out by this point. This is not the typical order of operations. You usually install RAM right at the very beginning when you're assembling the motherboard platform itself. This was the kit of RAM that I originally wanted to upgrade him to. This is a 32 gig kit of Corsair Domplat RGBs in white. These are really premium modules, and they would look really good with his white case. Problem is, his air cooler is hanging over the first DIMM slot a bit, which means I could only use 2 of these in slots 2 and 4. Problem is he's got 32 gigs as is, and I certainly don't want to downgrade him to 16, especially if he's you know, content creating the like with this particular system. So I tried a few other kits. I tried a white kit of G-Skill memory. These Trident Z modules are a bit shorter than the Dom Plats, and they still wouldn't fit. I understand now why he has these particular kits mixed in here, because they are much more low profile than some of the beefier kits out there. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to just stick with what he's got. I don't have any 32 gig kit of DDR4 in white that's low profile enough to make sense for this build. So we're just gonna put what he has originally back into it. This will be the first time I've cleaned a person's system without upgrading anything. Most of that has to do with his request. He didn't want anything upgraded, which I, again, totally respect, and it just means that I can, again, upgrade someone else later on down the line. But I don't know, a bit disappointed. I wanted to surprise him with something, but hopefully the clean system is enough of a surprise. Now, something else you might have noticed with this build here is that it's actually not very old, and that means that it wasn't super dirty to begin with, although the case definitely needed a hose down. Those dust filters were just super clogged. But it just goes to show you that it doesn't need to be a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old system to qualify. If you have a system that's dirty enough, there's dust pretty much everywhere. And especially if you haven't, you know, taken apart your graphics card and properly cleaned that after a few years, that warrants a video on this playlist. If you live in the area and you have a system that's as dirty as this or dirtier, which would be even better, be sure to send my wife an email, lisa@salazarstudios.org. It's also in the video description and probably in a pinned comment, and she'll put you in the queue. All right, so we've got this RAM in here. I believe everything is where it should go, and we're gonna try firing it up for the first time since the cleaning. Make sure that all is well. Get this fan resituated. All right, looking good. Yep, let's get it going. And it posts, we're on the Windows load screen. I'm not surprised that it posts, but I do always like to check that these will turn on, that there aren't any inherent problems with the way that I've reassembled the system. You never know, maybe there's a wire that's like clipping a fan or something that's not taped down properly, or maybe I forgot to connect a wire all together and there's a fan not spinning. I like to check all that stuff before I package it up and send it back to the owner. Now, despite this system not being the dirtiest we've cleaned to date, it has still come a long way, and it did require a full tear down. We had to wash the case, we had to completely strip down the graphics card and motherboard even. I mean, the X570 motherboard, some of you on Twitter were saying, how dirty can an X570 motherboard get in just a couple of years? The answer to that question, my friend, is as dirty as you want. Depending on where you set your system, if your window's open 24/7, maybe you have a really disgusting room that you've never vacuumed before, you have pets even, that dust can accumulate rather quickly. I haven't found a lot of hairs. They look like human hairs, but they were quite long, and a lot of them were tangled up in this air cooler, so that was pretty gross. But you know, that just goes to show you that no matter what, I mean, unless you're doing like, you know, routine maintenance on a system like this every at least few months, I would say, you're gonna end up with a system that needs to be fully disassembled if you want a thorough cleaning. You can probably get around that just by cleaning occasionally every month or two, but if you're just gonna let it sit and just cake up dust, that stuff's gonna get really grimy, it's gonna stick to surfaces, and it's not gonna remove itself by just being blasted with some air. So that's why I deconstruct the way that I do, that's why I'm as thorough as I am, because you really never know where these systems come from, what environments they've been in for so long. With that, if you guys like this video in the series, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. If you want to know what tunes I jam to when I'm cleaning these systems, check out my Spotify playlist down below. It's totally off the cuff here. Just figured I'd link it down there because, you know, I'm into music. I've always been a fan of music. I play guitar, and I love rock music. But if you want to, you know, share in some of that, you can click that link down below as well. Join our public Discord server if you have not already, and I'll catch you in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for deep cleaning with me.